Here are the 10 best exercises I recommend to just about everybody in order to build a great physique. Now, I do this all from the comfort of home. I have two versions I'm going to show you, one with dumbbells and or body weight, the other with a resistance band setup I've been using. Before jumping into the exercises, I will be using a bench for some of my dumbbell exercises, as well as a backpack for some of the bodyweight ones in order to add on more resistance. So with that, let's take a look at the 10 exercises. For exercise number 1, we're looking at targeting the quads and glutes with the suitcase squat. In both versions, you're going to have your hands down by your sides. Dumbbells, you're just going to be holding the dumbbells, and with the resistance bands, I recommend getting some J-hook handles or some other type of handle you can hold onto and wrap the bands around, as it's far more comfortable and easier to do than trying to hold the bands themselves. But regardless of the version, how you do the exercise is the exact same, so pick which one you like better and go with that. Next up, we're looking at hitting the hamstrings and glutes with the Romanian deadlift. Now, if you're using dumbbells, you could use something like the hyperbells if your dumbbells fit them. For me, I like to just hold the dumbbells themselves, but if I get into the heavier weights with something like nuobells, I will put on wrist straps for these ones as well. But if you're using the resistance bands, I highly recommend taking a look at the bar, especially if you're using my setup and doing them that way, as it's much easier to keep form when going through the range of motion. My third exercise is going to focus on hitting the chest with a standard chest press. Now for dumbbells, I am going to use an adjustable bench here, and I like to put it one rung up to angle it just slightly when doing it. So it will work a little bit more of the upper pecs, but just barely, as we're barely changing the angle at all. The main reason I do this is when I have issues going to failure on some of my exercises, bailing out when you're laying flat is awkward, and I feel like I'm going to tear my pecs or my arms or something just doing wrong if I have to bail out and throw the dumbbells. Instead, if I have it slightly angled up, it's easier for me to come out of the exercise and prevent injury. So that's why I do it that way. Now, if you're using resistance bands, I recommend taking the handles again and putting them under the step platform that I use in my setup. And this gets a really, really good, I'd say, provides a lot of tension in the band in order to really hit the chest hard with this exercise. You could put it across your back, but I found I really like it when I use the platform as well. And a quick note with the chest press, if you don't have heavy enough dumbbells, but you have plates or even a backpack with some weight around, I recommend switching over to push-ups and doing it that way and just putting some weight in a backpack and doing push-ups, as now you have your body weight to help, and then any additional weight is just a bonus for some more resistance. Now for exercise number 4, we're going to target hitting the mid and upper back with row variations. Now for dumbbells, we're going to get our slight incline bench back out, and we're going to be doing chest supported rows, as I really find this makes it a lot easier to focus on just working the back instead of trying to balance, and also removes the lower back from the equation. Now if you're using resistance bands, I like to do seated rows where I actually take the platform again, put it up against a wall, and then take the bands, put it behind that platform, and with the J-hook handles again, do the rows that way. I find when double looping the band behind it, you get enough tension, you can always add more bands as needed. Now on to exercise number 5, we're going to hit the shoulders with the overhead press. Now if you're using dumbbells, I prefer seated overhead press, mainly because when you get to heavier dumbbells, trying to get heavy dumbbells up into standing position can be kind of dangerous to do so, but if you're seated, you can kind of sit down and kick them into place instead. So that's why I personally like doing the seated ones. You also remove balancing out of the equation, so you should be able to target the shoulders a bit better. But if you're using resistance bands, we're going to be doing the standing overhead press. This, of all the exercises, is one of the most awkward to get into, because you kind of have to do almost like a squat into place and then squat it up into that shoulder starting position to then push up overhead. So of all the exercises, this is probably the worst one overall in terms of awkwardness to get into, but still a great exercise when you have it set up and ready to go. Now into exercise number 6, we have a pull-up using your body weight, or pull down if you're using resistance bands. Now for the pull-ups here, you'll see I'm doing them on a doorway, but you could also use something like my Iron Master Superbench Pro and do them with a separate standalone setup. The standalone will probably be safer because you're not using your doorway to do the exercise, which could break and cause injury. So it's up to you what you use. Both options work just fine, but get some kind of pull-up in there. Now we're at exercise number 7, and for this one, we're going to look at working the triceps. So my favorite dumbbell-based exercise is going to be the skull crusher. Luckily, I have a separate bar, an easy curl bar by Jayflex, that I can attach my dumbbells to and do them that way. However, if you don't have this option, feel free to just hold the dumbbells themselves and do the same motion. But I like to do this with the easy curl bar because it's just a bit more comfortable for me and I can load up the dumbbells very well with this option. Now with resistance bands, we're not going to be doing the skull crushers as it's very hard to get into and start the position. So instead, we're going to be doing standing overhead tricep extensions while still using the bar itself. We are now at exercise number 8, and we're going to be targeting the biceps this time for our exercises. So with this one, we're going to take that easy curl bar back out and do them that way in a standing position. I just like this version. You could do them seated as well, but I just prefer using the easy curl bar with my bicep curls. As long as the biceps or the elbows are in fixed position and the biceps are doing the work, and you're doing the exercise to a great enough intensity, you will see growth in time. Your biceps are worked in many other pulling-based movements, but this is one of my favorites overall. Similar to the standing bicep curl with dumbbells, the standing bicep curls with resistance bands are going to be the same thing while using the bar. Now for me, I don't have an easy curl bar as of this time when shooting this, so it's going to be a straight bar, but just know that depending on your carry angle, so if when you're standing, if your hands are kind of out away from your body, you probably want the easy curl bar, or if they're more in line with your hips and legs, you could probably use a straight bar just fine. But just know, I only have the straight bar, so that's what I'm demonstrating here. The second to last exercise is the calf raise, and these are very similar, regardless if you use dumbbells or resistance bands. For the dumbbell versions, we're just going to be holding those dumbbells directly at our sides. I am going to take out my standing platform that's actually using my resistance band setup. That way I can keep my heels off of the ground and get a bit more stretch in the entire range of motion. And for the resistance bands, I recommend doing this with J-hook handles. You could use the bar, but the handles I feel like just provide more stability in the movement while I'm doing it instead of pulling me forward. So for that, again, hands down by your side, ankles slightly off the back of the standing platform, and just do them until you can't do them anymore. So we've made it all the way to the final 10th exercise, and for this one, we're going to be targeting the abs with crunch variations. So my first one is actually using Bodyweight, and it's just a standard plank crunch. So you could use something like an ab roller for this, but I actually like just doing it by getting to plank position and then just contracting my abs to round my back and then just going between kind of the plank and a rounded back version of the exercise. And if this becomes too easy, strap on a backpack with some weights to make it a bit harder. Now for resistance bands, we can't really do that same exercise and add resistance, so I like to do cable crunches instead. So what we'll need is some kind of overhead anchor again, and we're just going to use that. So like a door anchor, like a beam in your house, anything else just above your head, just anchor it up above it, and you're going to hold, I like to use again the J-hook handles, hold those, and all you're doing is contracting your abs to bend your spine and then back to the starting position. We're not throwing our arms or doing anything like that. All you're doing is focusing on using the abs to contract, and then you're done once you can't do any more reps. So that is the list of all 10 exercises using both dumbbells and bodyweight or resistance bands home gym setups. Now I tend to go between both options quite often. I just like to switch it up from time to time. So pick your favorite and just go and do it and see how far you can get with those 10. But if you're looking for more videos, I'll put 2 on screen here, 1 resistance bands and 1 dumbbells, so you can take a look at them and see how they can help improve your home workout, gym, and or program.